Hey, I can hear you.
Oh boy.
Yo, thank you for waiting.
What is up?
Sorry for my spiel on the serial killer. I felt like I had to get that off my chest. Um, thanks for fighting through the gremlins in our technology to join us tonight. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm here. Thanks for having me. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what's up, man? What have you experienced in this crazy deranged world we're in?
Okay, so I got some ghost stories. I got a Mothman story, and I got a UFO story. But we're gonna try to keep it shorter for you guys.
Oh, let's do it.
And I think I
Yeah.
want to tell you the UFO stuff today.
Cool. Let's hear it,
So I
man.
have a personal UFO little sighting, but to kind of set it up, I grew up in northern Maine, probably like 3 hours north of where Stephen King is from, in a town of
Huh.
like 2,000 people.
Wow.
And there was a huge Air Force base that was abandoned, Loring Air Force Base.
Okay.
And that is the one case where there was a UFO sighting that the U.S. government admitted that the UFO got into the nuclear facility airspace and actually got either landed or got real close to the ground.
Whoa.
But they actually admitted that, and that was in 1975. And there's multiple different viewpoints on that, and different people who have kind of witnessed and seen what went on. But they actually tried to cover it up. So that's the main story, but there's a little bit more detail to that I have.
Yeah. Please tell us more. If you
Um,
and if
so
you
I
know
grew
like
up on a. Well, what's that?
sorry, I was just gonna say if you know any like the other story accounts too, you can share those. But yeah, whatever you got.
Yeah, so one a guy is Michael Wallace. He was a Air Force pilot who actually has an account on YouTube where he talks about it. And he was flying for the Air Force around Portland, Maine, going towards Bangor, and they actually called him the night after this had happened once, and they said you need to leave formation and hurry up here at your discretion. And he said that was really weird. That doesn't normally happen. So get us there as fast as you can, and check out this UFO. Some people on the runway said it was a 4 to 5 foot long car length object that was rapidly moving back and forth, and the lights were going on and off, and it was going from one end of the runway to the other. But the really interesting thing is, where I lived was right outside the woods next to the base,
Hmm.
and in those woods, the Department of Defense funded a facility which is now closed, so it's kind of public information, but it housed the most advanced weapons in the history of mankind in those woods. And they had concrete igloos, like hundreds of bunkers. And this was a facility that was all around the country at the time, but this was one of the biggest ones in SAC in the Air Force.
Well, like a DARPA
Um,
situation.
Yeah, it was like I believe so. I believe it was DARPA. It was called the North River Depot, and it was in the woods, four electric fences around it, and um, I mean, there's tons of concrete buildings. One of the buildings, the second story, is all concrete, and underneath is a bunch of safes where they would put the nukes together and put the parts together, and then they would put it on I believe it was B-52s, but this was right next to the alert area. It was part of Operation Chrome Dome, and they would fly the nuke 24/7 around part of the world, and this was one of the stops. But a lot of people think these UFOs we're doing this to like actually stop maybe someone from dropping a nuke or you know, starting the chain reaction. But I don't know if you've seen War Games, but it's kind of along those lines there.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but I've heard stories from other people in the military, and you can find them online about they
Yep.
saw UFOs before a nuke launch, and they believe it was to maybe prevent mass destruction. Do you believe it's like extraterrestrials, or do you think it's you're seeing they're everyone's seeing military technology that they're confusing for UFOs?
Yeah, so that's definitely something like I've wondered myself. The specific area where it was landing was where they would put those um, pretty much bombs on the planes. It's where the guys would go, and that the Strategic Air Command met there, and they were freaked out. The heads like were getting freaked out, and they were saying this was going on over and over and over again, and we can't figure it out. And they put out to the press that it was helicopters, so they were trying to make people think that it was a Russian helicopter a an exercise, a drill. But it makes no sense because why would you admit that it was unidentified if it was a helicopter? Because they had the technology to they would have intercepted it, seen it's a helicopter, and they wouldn't have said it was unidentified. But
Right.
they had to because they had no explanation. So that's really interesting.
Yep.
But to add to it, me and my buddy from college, I got him interested in this, and I would always go explore the base, and a lot of it is national wildlife, so you can go out there when it's open, and there's certain areas where you can't go. But we would explore the bunkers, and there's lots of places you can. And we specifically went outside that alert area and went all around that after we found out what happened with the UFO. And that night, we went back to one of my friend's house, and there was four of us standing out in his driveway. And this light comes through the trees, and it's a red light that's going around in circles, and it's searching, and it's flying through a really dense forest right next to us, and you can tell it's looking for something. And we all look at each other like starting to get freaked out. Are we really seeing this? And it zooms to the edge of the trees near where we are and shines a big white spotlight right at us.
Hmm.
And it's staying in the trees, hovering. And it's like it looks like a really advanced drone, or who knows? We couldn't see really what it was because it was like hiding in the woods. But
Hmm.
it looked at us, and we all jumped in the car, and we're like, "We're getting out of here." And one of my friends was like, "I got a wife and kids inside. I gotta go in the house." And we've really never been so scared seeing something like that. But
Wow.
there's more accounts on that base where they have seen huge objects and just weird things, and the government tries to say some people you ask, they won't tell you anything because they don't want to, that was part of the cover up. So
Of course. Did you hear anything when it was hovering? Like, was it making any other noises?
um not really, maybe a little buzzing, but you could definitely tell it was looking around, and it definitely like saw us, and this was right on the Canadian border.
Mm.
So there's border patrol in there, and that's one explanation is they have
Mm.
something like that, but it was flying through the trees, like underneath. There's dense branches everywhere. Like I don't know how something could fly through those type of trees.
Right.
And the feeling we got was like this is crazy. Like this was nothing like a drone. Like we were all really freaked out at the time. It was quite a while ago, but it was the same night that we went out to that place, and I just thought it's either
Huh.
the government like checking where we are and what we're doing, or it's the thing that stopped this, and it's just monitoring the place, and we might have like triggered it because we were out there because
Of
it was that
course.
same night.
So, having been like growing up in that type of area, were these like nonchalant? Like, were these stories shared nonchalantly amongst people? Like, did everyone kind of have this weird supernatural thing going on with the military base nearby?
Not everyone out there really knew stuff like that was going on, but you had to have what's called a security queue clearance to get into this base, and it was like need to know top secret level data. So this was a whole side base on the military base. So
Hmm.
there's once in a while you'll find one of those people. Most people say, "Oh, it was the helicopter. It was some helicopter." Okay,
Right.
but like then they look at you and kind of go, "What do you think?" And they leave it open. Like my uncle worked out there, and he would tell me that, but they didn't want to say anything of it. And
Right.
that guy Michael Wallace on YouTube said the higher ups pretty much said, if you see anything, report to us. Don't tell anything. That we don't want the public to know anything, and that was part of it. And this is like documented. Um, it went up to the CIA, the Atomic Energy Commission,
Wow.
the DoD. So
Yeah,
there's a lot more on that,
they
but
have a history of wanting to cover things up. I mean, you can look up the old articles that came out right in the wake of Area 51 crash landing, and it went
yes,
from
it's kind of similar to that.
saucer,
Yep.
yeah, saucer to balloon. and it kind of switched up in I think the 80s or 90s. They had some official story now where it's some other type of weather balloon you didn't know about. But that's what they do. And I grew up near a military base, and I've seen weird things in the sky that I can't explain. I believe there are things operating in the shadows that we just can't explain, but I also believe that there's just some crazy military tech that not even the higher ups as we know them know about.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, that's
'Cause-
cool that you're talking about technology today because I was like, well, that's the story. I had three stories, but that's the only one I'm going to tell today.
Sick.
But it was the
Yeah,
technology, and it just would blow your mind. But I also believe in the other side of it with like the spirits, and I have ghost stories and all that. But you don't know on both sides. There's things we don't know on both sides. So
exactly.
for sure.
I think there could be a trading of information happening between some supernatural entities that maybe they shouldn't be dealing with, and it's they've been privy to information that we can only fathom, or maybe we can't even fathom. I don't know
Exactly.
what type of portals they're building underground right now. But hey, man, that's a crazy story. I love that. The Maine is such a great, interesting, mysterious state, especially when you get up to
It's
northern
one of
Maine.
the most, up there with the UFO sightings. It's one of the best states for that, and we
Yeah.
definitely have some good ghost stories and stuff like that too here for sure.
Yep. I know Stephen King really sucks these days, but he wrote some
Yeah, I
great.
hear you. Hey, let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, dude, it's horrible because he wrote some great horror novels back in the day. But that's a shame that they had to clone him like that and give us this new terrible Stephen King. But hey, man, it was nice talking to you. Appreciate the call in.
Thanks,
Hey,
Brandon.
thanks. I appreciate it a bunch.
Have a good one.
Cool.